I summoned you, please come to me. Don't bury thoughts that you really want. I fill you up, drink from my cup. Within me lies what you really want.
In the silence of the grand cathedral, Choi Wai-yen, a 23 years old woman, stood at the altar, her hands trembling like delicate leaves in a soft breeze. Her eyes, wide and filled with a mix of fear and adoration, were fixed on the intricate patterns of the grass floor. To you, Taehyung, take Wai-yen to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer and for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you apart. The said man in his late 20s, Kim Taehyung, then uttered. His voice is low and commanding, echoing of the high vaulted ceiling. I do. And do you, Wai-yen, take Taehyung to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, to better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you apart? I do, she said. Her voice is a mere whisper, a testament to her timidity. You may now exchange rings. As he slides the rings onto Wai-yen's finger, his touch is deliberate, almost possessive. With this ring, I thee wed. Her hand shakes as she places the ring on Taehyung's finger, her gaze never rising to meet his. With this ring, I thee wed. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Taehyung lifted Wai-yen's chin gently, compelling her to meet his gaze for the first time. His kiss is firm, sealing their fates together. Wai-yen receives the kiss passively, her heart racing with a mixture of emotions, fear, respect, and the love that had been instilled in her for the man she now called husband. As the newlyweds turn to face the congregation, Wai-yen's eyes lower once more, her posture demure. Wai-yen, with her heart full of love and head full of teachings, stepped into the unknown, her journey just beginning. In the sacred silence of the cathedral, the vows were sealed, binding the cruel husband and the timid bride in a dance of destiny. The moon hung high in the sky, a silent witness to the night's solitary. Wai-yen sat in the opulent bedroom that belonged to Taehyung, her hands folded in her laps atop the cascading layers of her wedding dress. The room was steeped in shadows, the only light coming from the soft glow of the bedside lamp, casting a warm halo around her. Her heart fluttered like a caged bird, each beat a mix of hope and trepidation. She had been told that this room, adorned with dark woods and heavier scales, was where she was to wait for her husband. But the teachings of her youth echoed in her mind, reminding her to be demure, to lower her gaze, to be the wife Taehyung expected. The door opened with a quick click and Taehyung stepped in. His presence filled the room, a cold gust of wind that seemed to snuff out the warmth. His sharp eyes landed on Wai-yen, and his brow frowned in a mix of irritation and disdain. Taehyung then said, his voice was a blade cutting through the silence. What are you doing here? This isn't your room. Yours is the next door. Wai-yen's eyes widened and she quickly averted her gaze, a blush creeping up her neck. She had misunderstood, assumed too much, and now her heart sank with the weight of her error. She then said, her voice barely audible, laced with the timidity of a doe. I am sorry. I didn't know. I thought... Taehyung interrupted her, his voice sharp and final. Don't think. Don't expect love or affection. This marriage is nothing more than a business arrangement. Wayne nodded, her fingers twisting the fabric of a dress, a silent promise to remember her place. Taehyung's words were a harsh decree, a reality she would have to accept. Then turning away, he said, his back as unyielding as his words, "Go to your room, Wayne, and don't forget again." With a quiet rustle of silk, Wayne stood and left the room, her steps light but her heart heavy. The door closed behind her with a soft click, and she was alone once more, left to ponder the gulf between them. Wayne's steps were mere silent as she moved through the dimly lit corridor, the soft murmur of the night celebration distant echo behind the heavy doors. Her room, adjacent to Taehyung's, was a stark contrast to the one she had just left, a smaller space, less grand but with a touch of warmth that other lacked. As she closed the door behind her, the finality of Taehyung's words settled in her heart like a stone. The room felt colder now, the walls closing in as the weight of a new reality pressed down on her. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, the image of a bride with no groom by her side, a queen with no king to share her throne. The tears came then, unbidden and silent, tracing paths down her cheeks like rivers craving through untouched land. Her dreams, once so vivid and full of color, had faded to grey. The love she had nurtured for Taehyung, the man she now called husband, seemed a fool's hope, a delicate flower whittling in the harsh winter of his indifference. Is this my life now? A shadow in this world, a whisper of a wife? She whispered to her reflection. Her hands reached up to remove the veil, the symbol of her bridal purity, now a mockery of the love she would never have. Each pin she pulled free was a release, a letting go of the fantasies she had woven around her marriage, a partnership of souls, a meeting of hearts. I loved you before I knew you, Taehyung. I loved you because you were to be my husband, my provider, my protector. Her words broke as she spoke to the empty room. The wedding dress, once a garment of joy, felt like a shroud, heavy and suffocating. She let it fall to the floor, stepping out of it as one might step out of an old life, leaving behind the innocence and hope that had dressed her in its folds. In its place, she donned a simple nightgown, the fabric soft against her skin, a comfort, however small, against the chill of her solitude. She crawled into bed, the sheets cool and unwelcoming, and curled into herself, her body a tight quilt of pain and confusion. Tears streaming, she clutched a pillow to her chest. How do I make a life with a man who sees me as nothing? How do I breathe? With every breath is a reminder of his disdain. Outside, the night carried on, indifferent to the plight of the timid bride in her girdle cage. The stars shone, the moon sailed through its arc, and the world spun its axis. But within the walls of her room, Wayne wept for the life she had lost, for the love she would never know, and for the strength she would need to find within herself to face the upcoming days. Her tears were a silent prayer, a wish for the courage to endure, to grow, and to one day, perhaps, find happiness in a world she had shown her none. Next morning. As the first light of dawn crept through the grand windows of the mansion, the kitchen was already abuzz with whispers. The servants moved quietly, casting curious glances towards the dining table where Wayne had laid out breakfast. They had heard about the wedding the night before and about the union of their formidable boss, Taehyung, with the meek and gentle Wayne. Wayne stood by the table, her hands clasped together, her eyes downcast. She wore a simple dress, a stark contrast to the lavish attire of the previous evening. The servants watched her, a collective breath held as they sensed the tension in the air. Taehyung's footsteps echoed through the hall, each step a clear, defined sound that signified his approach. The servants paused their task and momentarily forgotten as they anticipated the encounter. Taehyung then said, his voice filled the room, a commanding presence that demanded attention. "What is this?" Vine flinched at the sound, her heart racing. She had wanted to do something nice to show her dedication as a wife, but now she felt foolish under his piercing gaze. She then said, her voice was a soft murmur, barely rising above the hush of the room. I made breakfast for you." Taehyung surveyed the table with a critical eye, his expression unchanging. The servants exchanged glances, their unease growing. They knew their master's moods well, and the air seemed charged with his displeasure. He spoke with a cold clarity, his words cutting through the morning's peace. "I have people for this. You are not here to play servant. This isn't your place." Vine's cheeks turned a deep shade of red, embarrassment burning within her. She wished she would disappear, become as small and invisible as her voice felt in the vast room. She then whispered, her timidity on full display, I'm sorry, I just thought..." Interrupting her, he said, his tone dismissive, "Don't just think. It's not what you are here for. Understand?" With a nod, Vine stepped back, her eyes never meeting his or those of the servants who watched the scene unfold. "And one more thing, you don't need to take leave from your work anymore. I have important work, so I am not taking leave either. Just keep in mind tomorrow night I am throwing a party on the occasion of our wedding, so free your schedule for that time." Saying this, he sat on his chair, the servant serving him his breakfast. By the corner of his eyes, he saw her nervously clutching her dress. So he looked at her and said in his deep, authoritative voice, "If you want to say something, do fast." She gulped and nodded her head. She then said, her voice as sweet as honey, I am not working outside, so don't worry, my time is only for you." She smiled saying this, but Taehyung stopped eating his breakfast and looked at her, his expression unreadable. "You don't work, more precisely, don't have a job." Wai nodded her head while his brows got knitted together in confusion. "Correct me if I am wrong. As long as I am known, you are very good at studies. You have completed your maths undergrad and postgrad with flying marks. You have gotten scholarships too. Then how come you are jobless? Are you not into teaching? Do you want to study further and go into research? Or perhaps something else?" No, Taehyung, why would I do any such thing? If I go out to work, then who will take care of you? I am your wife, I have responsibilities towards you. How come I go out every day neglecting you? Don't worry, I won't do any such thing." She shyly murmured and was contained with her words, but that time she didn't notice how his expression darkened. He placed his fork on the table and clenched his fist as he felt anger consuming him. "So you were telling me you studied hard all these years only to sit at house being jobless?" "Yes, Taehyung, I know my responsibilities. Just because I have studied in university, it doesn't mean I will forget my place. You are a well-established man, earning so well for yourself, for your family. I am a part of your family, so I should stay at home to take care of you, right? When you will come home exhausted, I should be here to tend your needs," she proudly said, her lips curved into a smile. "Wait, let me get this straight. You, a 23 years old woman, is staying jobless because she married a rich guy who can handle all her expenses," he harshly stated without caring about the servants watching them. Wai's brows got knitted together as she didn't expect this reaction. "Taehyung, you were telling me you, a grown woman, is staying at home because she have to take care of a grown husband who still yesterday was living comfortably without your help." You were telling me you want to stay at home to take care of your husband, wasting your youth when he only stays at home during nights, and there are numerous servants to keep this mansion neat and clean. Taehyung, we don't even have any children yet, Vayan, that you are raving about taking care of. I have numerous servants to do daily housework too. From cooking to cleaning to gardening, everything. So, what wifely responsibilities you were talking about for which you need to be at home 24/7? Because, as far as I remember, I am managing to look after these servants while doing my work all these years. Oh, how can I forget? You must be referring to your duty as a wife to warm my bed, right? How can I forget? That's a big responsibility. You need to be fresh always for me. Who knows when I have mood? Vine's eyes widened and her cheeks became red, not due to shyness but due to embarrassment. She couldn't understand why her newly wedded husband was insulting her like this in front of everyone. Didn't she say what she was supposed to say? Then why he was angry? You know what? It's good. Keep this up. After all, who would refuse a 24/7 bed warmer? A gasp left her mouth, not only hers but also the servants too. A bed warmer. A whisper-like sound left her mouth as her eyes became glossy. Yes, that too, a gold-digging one. My goodness, such a clever woman you are, marrying a rich man so that you need to only warm his bed to enjoy his luxurious life. I am impressed. Saying this, he got up from his chair and left from there. She stood there motionless as his words rang in her mind repeatedly. A gold-digging bed warmer.